Morning everybody, it's David with davidspassage.com, and today we are continuing on in our wild edible plant series. Today we're looking at one of the most identification requests for mushrooms I've seen in many forums, Dryad Saddle, or also called Pheasantback. Stick around. Just want to say this as a disclaimer, especially with wild mushrooms, don't take any YouTuber's advice on what mushrooms are edible. Do the research yourself. The only reason why I do these wild edible series is to hopefully inspire some of your curiosity to do your own research. Always consult with a local expert first before consuming any wild edible plant. So just kind of coming down the trail here, I come across this stump. As you can see on this stump, we have a very cool fungus that's growing, very big, about the size of a little bit bigger than a dinner plate. And this is known as Dryad Saddle, or also known as Pheasantback. So just for perspective, this is my Leatherman rebar, and stretched out like this is 8 inches long. So we've got about a 12, 13 inch mushroom here, by 8. This is a mushroom that is very popular to hunt around morel time because they tend to grow and they tend to best be harvested around morels. Also, a lot of people find that they're easier to find than morels. Although you don't tend to find as many of them unless you live in an area with a bunch of hardwood stumps. But what's nice about them though, unlike hunting morels, as you can see, pretty easy to spot as you're kind of walking through the woods here. The obvious reason why they call them pheasantback is because, you know, these sort of scales that form on the top of them, especially as they get older, really look like, you know, pheasant feathers. They grow on the sides of dead stumps. They'll grow on downed logs, things like that. They're pretty easy to spot. Just looking at some of the characteristics of them, they are shelf fungus, so they tend to grow in layers. You can definitely see a pronounced feather-like pattern. That's why they call it pheasantback. On the bottom, you can see it has all kinds of pores. And to really properly identify this, you're looking for a couple things here. You're looking at, again, it's growing on a dead stump or log. A feather-like pheasant, you know, think of a pheasant's back, exact, and it's really the best way to identify the top. But looking at the bottom, it's covered in all these pores. And these tend to grow, where I'm at in Michigan, they tend to grow and are best harvested in May. This one's getting a little bit big to harvest for edible use. With this one, you know, probably I'm only going to be able to use the edges here. So how do you prepare them? Well, you want to, you know, definitely wash them and maybe even soak them in salt water. Get out if there's any little critters that are embedded in those pores. It'll help them get out. But then you can use these almost like you would any other mushroom. You can saute them, and that's sort of the best way in butter. Any mushroom sauteed in butter is really good, and they go great with a variety of dishes. Now again, this is getting to be a little bit big to harvest, so I'm gonna take this one home and try to see how much, you know, of this I can actually get food-wise. But I'll show you. A lot of times around the tree, and I'll show you. You look on the other side here. We have some that are much smaller. Much smaller. This size would be much more preferred to harvest and eat. So they can have a rubbery texture, and a lot of it depends on how you cook them. You kind of see the stem, not very big there. But these are another really good mushroom to eat. One thing that's very distinctive about Dryad Saddle too, if you smell them, they smell just like watermelon rinds, which is really cool. They don't taste like watermelon rinds, but they do smell quite like them. One test that you can do in deciding whether or not you can eat the particular Dryad Saddle that you're picking is your knife should be able to pass through the layer of pores relatively easy. As you can see, when I get up here, doesn't pass through so well, and you know, that's just a sort of a test that you can do to see whether or not the particular one you picked is edible in terms of being good for food. Obviously the whole, you know, the thing is edible, but not all edible things are the funnest to eat. But if your knife can pass through nice and easy, then you know that that portion of the Dryad saddle is, or the pheasantback, is good to eat, or will be good to eat when you prepare it properly. One thing you should also know too is they're great to saute, but if you overcook them, they can be tough. So it's best to just cook them kind of hot and fast, you know, without burning them. You sort of have to experiment with how you saute them in order to get the, I guess, the optimal temperature and whatnot. But the longer you cook them, the more rubbery or the harder they are to eat. Great mushroom to be looking out for, and especially in May as you go morel hunting. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Appreciate all your comments and support. Definitely thumbs up the video and share it with your friends. I've been getting a lot of positive comments about this wild edible series, and so I plan to continue on with it. But I'd love it if you get your friends on board too, to tag along as well. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video, or we'll see you outdoors. Take care.